Hi, it's Nick Sadler of the Label Machine here, and on today's podcast we have Dorian Perron, the co-founder of Groover, which empowers independent artists to get their music heard and accelerate their careers. We talked about how artists can reach Spotify playlist curators and get them to listen to their music, how over 1,000 artists have been signed to record deals on the platform, and what strategies labels can use to get their music out to new territories and markets. Dorian had some great insights. I really love this episode, and I hope you do too.
You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learned on how they both market and grow their music income.
Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with our guests how artists and record labels promote and monetize music. Today's guest is Dorian Perron. Dorian is a co-founder of Groover, which empowers independent artists to get their music heard and accelerate their careers. With a multi-degree education from universities across Australia, California, and France, and a background in blogging with his blog Indie Flagration, Dorian, with his two other founders, has helped raise $7.5 million funding in the last 3 years for the business, which has firmly positioned that company as a market leader in music promotion. Groover is just getting going with a growing team and offices to open throughout the world, so I'm very pleased to have him here today and share his time with us. Dorian, how are you today?
Hello, Nick. I'm doing really well.
Awesome. So first question I always ask everybody, how did you get started in the music industry to get to where you are now?
I started really by chance. So I did studies like business school. I wasn't studying about music in a particular way, but I started my music blog, I think it was in 2013, just before getting to college. And what I wanted to do was just sharing tracks that I loved with my friends and also involving some friends in it. I thought I was the very first person to launch a music blog, and then I realized that there were hundreds of them. But it was the first time that I was launching a project and keeping the rhythm, because the idea was to publish like one track per day with like a few comments and paragraphs, and I really enjoyed it. And I realized that very soon I was getting some emails and requests from artists who wanted to be featured on the blog. And first email I received, I was like, wow, it's incredible. I received like an email from an artist who wants to be like featured on my stupid blog I just started. So it was really thrilling. Then I realized I was receiving a lot more and a lot more and then a lot more. And I started receiving like 100 emails per day from artists who were sending their music and wanting to be featured. And it's still like a small blog. I think it had like 1,000 or 2,000 Facebook likes only. Like it was really a small thing, like very underground. But I really enjoyed it. I started shooting some live sessions at my place. I also organized some shows. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know who to get in touch with or what to do, but I started to get to understand who was doing what in the industry. Because from the outside, it can look like very complicated, but once you start talking to people, you kind of understand that it's not that complicated. It's as if it was, voluntarily made, as if it was complicated look, as if it was complicated, but it's not that complicated to understand the roles of the different players of the music industry. But then it was just a hobby. And in 2017, I went to UC Berkeley in California, where I met with my co-founders for an entrepreneurship program, and we wanted to help artists. We knew it, like we knew they had issues. I had my experience on my side with my blog, receiving so many requests and having totally dumped my email inbox because I didn't have like time to check those emails and being super frustrated about it. So we started talking with a lot of people. Like for a month or so, we did only that, like calling people in France and around the US, meeting with artists and all the music industry professionals, and just asking very open and broad questions about where they were at, what were the issues they were facing. And we had a bit of a different idea first, but after those interviews, it was very clear that their like main struggle was how once they have produced their track and once they have released it, how can they actually get more people than their mother and their dog to listen to their track. And it was like a monologue, like 20-minute or 30-minute monologue of how do I get my music heard. So we really wanted to go into that. And so we started really scrappily building a Google form in a WordPress with a PayPal button and seeing if people were paying. And on the other side, we were sending we were sending all the Google forms to the music curators and professionals. A few ones I knew that I had selected like for this first batch to send them the tracks, and they would review them for a small fee, and started to work. And actually, the business model has been the same since the beginning. And yeah, so it started like that. It's how I got into music, and I'm of course like a big music digger. I play a bit of music. I go to a lot of shows, and I was reviewing a lot of music for my blog at the time. So it was kind of the possibility to work in the music industry and get a job into it, which is not actually a job. It's like a passion all day long, even if it's a lot of work still.
Mm-hmm. No, nice. Oh, and you're saying you play a little bit of music. Is that as a musician or like a DJ?
More as a musician, but I don't release music. I would like to someday, but now like with Groover, it's taking too much time. I have like an underground SoundCloud somewhere, but like nobody knows it. So
nice. Yeah, I running a company myself as well, I know how hard it is to find time. Wait till you have a child as well, because that really, I didn't really see any music. I got down to doing one track a year, and last year, now I've had a child, I didn't really see any, and I'm going to try again this year, but yeah, that's even harder. Cool. So can you give us a quick rundown of what your main activities are at Groover today?
Yeah. So I'm one of the co-founders, as I was mentioning, with 3 co-founders, and I handle all the business and music related activities. So it involves everything from trying to get more artists to use Groover, trying to get more curators and professionals to use Groover, make the connection between them, and try to really provide the value and the service to them. So also handling like customer support, getting feedback, and trying to improve the platform day after day. In the team, we also have a tech team, a data team, a product team working on the platform. And I also have my co-founder, Roma, who's working more on everything related to funding, HR, but also global strategy and coordination. I'm more operational into like developing the business activities in music. And what we do at Groover, if it was also part of your question, is helping artists get in touch.
The next bit is, how does the platform work? And explain it as if somebody had never heard of Groover or how to do music promotion at all.
100%. Usually I'm good at it because we were really talking about it to like artists or even other people. And so there's not like too much complicated language or anything. It's quite simple to understand. Basically what we do is we help artists who release music or who have music they want to be reviewed to get in touch with some music curators. So it can be blogs, media outlets, magazines, radios, but it can also be some music industry professionals like record labels, managers, and it can also be, it's the third category, it can be some sound engineers or coaches. So usually artists, they come to Groover and they have something they're looking for, which can be a bit different. Sometimes they really want some visibility for their music. Sometimes they want to find someone to join their team and have them with their project. And sometimes they just want feedback on the demo or on their music from someone who will tell them what they think. And sometimes they want all of this. Sometimes they want only do two of those things. But when they go to Groover, the first thing is like saying what they want from those 3 options. Uploading their track. It's usually through a YouTube or SoundCloud link, very easy. A small pitch on their track, like a small presentation of what they're releasing, and focusing on one track. And then they select who they want to get in touch with through the whole list. Today, there are 2,000 music creators and professionals who are currently active. It's not like a database of a lot of contacts and you never know if they're going to answer. It's really 2,000 people who are currently active. So there's a high chance they will listen to the track and review it, at least a reply. So the artists, to go back, choose who they want to get in touch with, and they pay small amounts of money, €2 by contact selected. For some of them, it costs a bit more because we created this like top curators category to be able to attract bigger curators and creators who and professionals who can have more impact for the artists. But it's usually like €2 by contact. On average, artists select around 30. So it would cost them, their campaign, around €60, but some pay much more. We have people doing select all and send, and they pay like 2,000. And some pay only like €10, selecting just 5 or 10 curators. So it's really like a different, depending on the budget on the artist side and how they want to try it out and their targets. And so what we do and what we provide is we guarantee that those creators and professionals are going to listen to the track and actually write feedback, whether it's positive or negative. So we kind of guarantee that the artists are going to break this wall of first listening, which is the biggest issue today for artists, which is they're releasing music and they're sending emails and nobody's answering because there's so much music released every day. There's 100,000 tracks on Spotify every day. And so we try to guarantee that, like breaking this wall of the first listening. And then everything is about the track itself and how well the targeting has been. Like, have you targeted the right person for your music? Someone who's going to like it. And what happens then is that the curator or the professionals who receives a track in a dashboard, they listen to the track as if it was a playlist. They review it, they write feedback, and they can decide whether they want to share it or not, whether they want to go further or not. And usually they accept the track in 25% of cases. So on average today on the platform, which is really good. For some artists, it's like 80 or 90% because their track is so good and the targeting is good. For some artists, it's much less. It depends really. But we guarantee that. And the curator gets paid part of the amount. So €1 out of the €2 for giving feedback, whether it's positive or negative. So they can refuse everything they want. They remain totally independent on an editorial point of view. But they have a service where they receive tracks that are more targeted because since the artists are paying by contact, they're more careful about who they're getting in touch with. So the creators are getting tracks that are more in line with what they want to receive, more filtered. And at the same time, the experience is really nice to listen to music, so it's easy. So they tend also to accept more tracks and really get engaged with it and share it. So it's really a very positive circle of trying to remake these connections between artists and music professionals and creators who can really help them grow. And so that's it. If you want to really simplify, you can say it's like a matching platform between artists and music professionals and creators. A bit like it could be a matching platform for like romantic relationships. It's kind of the same, like a strength relation. Artists really demanding and creators and professionals were more like receiving and in a more like situation of power, But actually, it really makes this connection. And just to end this, I would say that what's really cool is in 5 years, we have more than 150,000 artists signed up on Groover. We have more than 2,000 creators who are actively reviewing tracks. And when they're not active for like a week, they go on standby. So it's really like active there. We have a 90% answer rate. So meaning that when they don't answer after 7 days, you get credits back. So we really guarantee you that they're going to answer. And then we overpassed 2 million pieces of feedback given from creators to artists. So and a lot of shares, like 25% of them. So 400,000 shares can be placed, ads, radio broadcast, articles, or it can be also meetings between labels and artists. So yeah.
And across how many countries?
It's crazy. I think it's 150 different countries. It's like almost
186 according to your website.
186. Yeah, I don't even know. Like it's grown even because it's what's cool in that model and that platform is that it's totally scalable. Everybody can use it everywhere in the world and find some creators for them. And since the very beginning, we were focusing a lot on France as a whole market. We've had some American users using it to target France and Europe since the beginning. So it's always been international.
And are you doing like, are you looking to expand into like the Latin American market? Have you are you doing language updates and making it what's the word? Native format there? Yeah.
So we have the website in French and English for now. We have a big community of Brazilian users, and also Latin American ones, especially on the curator side. There's a big community in Italy as well, and all those countries and territories, they would love to have the website in Italian, Spanish, and it's really something we're working on. We want to have it at some point. It's gonna go progress. It's very technically, it's kind of complicated to like maintain a lot of different languages when you do updates and stuff. But we have our blog where we publish a lot of articles giving advice to musicians, and this blog is in already 5 languages, and we're gonna add German. And we also have social media accounts in a lot of different languages, including one for Brazil, one for Latin America and Spain, one for Italy, one in English, one in French. So we're really developing that kind of local and native thing. Also on the creators side, we have ambassadors locally who recruit some creators, professionals in each territory. And it's the way we try to grow, like building communities of both artists and creators locally. And yeah, we hope to have the website entirely translated at some point. But there's also like a very cool thing on Google Chrome. I don't know if you know, but you can click right and then translate the page.
Yeah, I did. I was reading a French blog about you. You did a French. It was in French, and it just did the automatic translation to English, and it was great. So
yeah, it works great. Yeah.
So and just quickly going back to reaching out to the different publishers and curators, does that include Spotify playlist curators, private?
Totally. In the beginning, it wasn't when we started in 2018, but it was the moment where it was becoming a big topic, and it went on and on, like growing as a very important way for artists to grow their audience, and really reach a real audience. And so we have a lot of playlist creators now. It's been a complicated topic because it's really hard to assess whether a playlist creator is impacting, engaging with real people, listening to the music and everything. But we have internal tools now, and we also use a variety of external tools to assess that. And we also get feedback from the artists. So we really now coming to a point where we monitor very closely the quality of the community of playlist creators, and it's growing a lot. We're onboarding some really cool, really impactful, big playlist creators who can have like a huge impact on your releases. And it's something we've been growing a lot. I think it represents probably 25 to 30%, maybe even more, of the community of creators and professionals on Groovin now.
I did want to ask that because I know it's so important. It's one of the big things that comes up at the Label Machine.
Yeah.
I want to get on more playlists. And you know, I've seen it with the artists I work with. You get on a great playlist, and suddenly the track, 500,000 views in a couple of months, and it goes beyond like any of the other tracks that they've kind of done. So that's really great, and that's like nearly a quarter of your creators are in that place. That's awesome to hear. So on the publications, because you're mentioning some other people you're working with, can you mention who some of the biggest publications are that you have that respond? Like, what's some name dropping you can do?
Yeah, of course. So, for example, if I had to give a few names, we have Verb.fm, which is a big one. Usually like for bedroom or lo-fi indie music. We have a really cool New York City-based, Brooklyn-based record label called Bad Ebbing Records. I don't know if you know about them. They're the label of like Sharon Van Etten, and they're the first label from for Beirut. And the guy Ben, I met with him in New York, and first he was like a bit skeptical, and I got him on board, and he got like in love with the platform in a way that I couldn't imagine. He's making a lot of very good discoveries and giving so much valuable feedback. Since we started in France and we're very mature in France, we have especially big outlets in France, especially like Tsugi Radio, which is one of the biggest one for electronic music here. Also French rap, we have a lot of them. We have Dummy Magazine in the UK. We have, I'm not really good at the name dropping because it changes all the time, but if you go on the landing page on groover.co, like the welcome page, we usually showcase some of the biggest ones by category, by style. So you can have a look. We also have like for world music, Putumayo is one of the biggest ones. They have so much impact when they add a track. We also have like, if you're looking into like the Spotify playlist curators, the biggest ones we have, it's actually fun. It's mostly, not mostly, but some of them that we have in a really cool community here is sex playlists. Because actually there are no official editorial Spotify playlist about sex, like for when you're looking for, I don't know, plays for that mood. So there are a lot of very big independent ones. Because when people are looking there and ending up on just finding playlists that are independent, so some of them are super impactful, and we have a really good relationships with a variety of all of them. And it's actually a way to really grow with real listeners, your tracks, especially if you in moods that are a bit like, I don't know, groovy or you know, like sensual or slow or like kind of this mood. It's a really way to grow, a good way to grow, to get in touch with those sex playlists and grow. It's just some examples because it's super varied in terms of styles and the people you can get in touch with.
Oh, nice. And so I'm an artist. I've submitted across, I've spent €60 and I've submitted across 30 different curators. What is some of the feedback that as an artist, I'm going to expect? Is it long, short? What kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's a super important question. We have a charter and a guide that we send to curators and pros with what artists expect. Usually what artists tell us that they expect and what they are going to get on Groover is if their track is not accepted, is understanding why in a concrete way. Most of the time it has to do with music taste. So it can be kind of frustrating, but at the same time, at least you have an answer and you know that like that curator is not going to like that particular track. What you can get also in the feedback is, what happens a lot is curators say when they liked and when they didn't like, in a benevolent way. But it can be interesting because sometimes some artists get really the same feedback from everyone. So it can really be a way, maybe to improve or to look for something else, or also to say, maybe I targeted the wrong persons. Some curators are really good at telling artists, you shouldn't have contacted me, but you should contact this kind of person, like redirecting artists to the right contacts. So it's really cool. And if you get in touch with some mentors or sound engineers, it's going to be more technical, especially if you have a demo or something. And then the labels, the publishers, the managers, they're usually going to give more advice about the project itself. Like maybe if they receive the track and they're like, okay, it's a good track, but I want to know more about the image or the universe. So like, what are you saying exactly? What's your peculiarity? This kind of thing. So it's a good way to actually get some unbiased feedback about your music, which is interesting because it can usually echoes with the feedback you're getting on the side. And it really depends, but I can see how the artists who really get into it and are really like, they're not taking very personally the feedback that's negative, because in some way it's just about music taste. Like music is so subjective. Yeah. Like, it's so subjective that you shouldn't expect something very objective from the feedback. It doesn't make sense. Sometimes that people are like, I expect something very objective and technical and exactly what I want to have someone saying exactly that. And I'm like, why do you pay for that? You already know what you want to get. And also it's always going to be subjective, and you can have someone saying something and somebody else saying the exact opposite, and it's because of their taste. So it's more, what I tell artists is like, if you really want to get feedback and everything, get into it, see what are the big trends and maybe try to dig into that. But also if you don't really want to receive feedback, which is something that some artists tell us, it's like they're using it for promotion, but they don't want feedback. And they're telling us like, why do I need to receive feedback? And we explain it to them. It's like, we use it as a tool that is a proof of listening. because the whole goal is about having creators and professionals listen to your track. When they answer, even if the feedback is not what you expected, at least they have listened. They wouldn't have listened otherwise. And if we didn't ask for feedback, they would not be as engaged with your music and actually considering if they want to share it or do something with it. And we did some tests of like not requiring feedback from the creators and just listening. They were refusing 4 times more tracks than when they had to write feedback. So it's really like a way to engage them with your music. So feedback is, you can get a lot of things out of it, but you can also like disregard it if you want. But you have to like keep in mind that the feedback that you're getting on Groover is, first of all, the proof of listening. And then you can get, if you get some trends or some things that come really often, it can really be a way for you to think about how you want to improve. Would you want to do that or not? Or do you want to target elsewhere?
I mean, surely that's just the artist ego getting in the way, really. I don't want feedback. Like, who doesn't want feedback? You can just read it and disregard it. That's interesting. So just, you mentioned as well before about some of the labels. There was a big one in New York with Beirut. And how are they using it as a curator? Are they using it to discover like artists? Are they using it almost like a demo type platform, like to receive demos?
So it depends, because today a lot of record labels, they don't work on the production side. They will work on, licensing tracks that are finished or even doing distribution and promotion. So they also like to receive, like a track that can be finished, because they're like, okay, to discover the artist, and then require from us like, do you have some demos or do you have something else? It depends on record labels, and they say it on their profile on Groover, whether they want to receive unfinished or finished tracks. About record labels, it's really cool because we can see that they're kind of like in the middle of everything, because usually they're using the platform on both sides. They're using it to get demos, to get submissions, maybe find artists they want to sign. And we know that there has been at least 1,000 signatures on record labels and publishers and managers since the beginning of Groover, which is crazy. But what's interesting as well is they also using Groover to promote their own roster, to like place creators, media outlets. And so what they do is they use the credits they earn to promote their own roster.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's super cool because like it engages a lot of record labels on the platform, and we actually have very nice community of record labels on Groover. We're super proud of it, and we can see some artists really getting some interesting feedback and results from it. And we have some very cool record labels I told about Badabing, but in France we have like Chinese Man Records, or it won't ring a bell, I guess, but they're really engaged and they're really looking to sign some artists that they are discovering, and they give really good feedback, and super cool because it was something they weren't doing before, and now they enjoy doing, really, and artists are getting a lot of value from it.
Yeah, I mean, I know Label Base that just does electronic music. That's all they use their platform for, is just for doing, and they just got bought by Beatport, so it's definitely a thing out there, and that's great to know as well for anyone that's listening as well. Like, hey, I'm hoping to get a record deal. Go and use Groover as a first port of call, I guess, to see whether or not you can get signed to be one of those 1,000 people or more than 1,000 people. And
actually about that, just a small word, because we realized that a lot of artists, when they were getting like some proposals from contracts from record labels, they were like totally lost about like understanding it, or what am I seeding? Am I siding with the devil and stuff like that? So we're proposing a new service. We're not like we're not lawyers, but we have a lot of experience now of like contracts and reading them and understanding what are the interesting things to look at. So we're trying a new service. It's really underground, but to proofread some contracts and give some feedback to artists on top of what we're doing on Groover. So we're trying this variety of like small services around it that are really related to what's happening on Groover, like getting a label proposal or a contract, or they need to write like a track pitch or a bio or something like this. So we're trying this. It's very manual, but we're enjoying like trying some new things to try to bring more value to artists.
Interesting. I mean, do you know what? It's weird, but it sounds like I could sign up to the Label Machine as a curator, just so I can listen and give feedback as a professional industry
could.
person.
As a sound expert or as a mentor. We have this category which is mentor, and a lot of artists are going to mentors when they really want advice about their careers, their project, or their track, just the sound. So
yeah, I'll definitely set that up. So, and on the other side, so just staying on labels as well. On the other side, you're saying as well that indie labels are using it to promote. So, what strategy would you say a smaller indie label is looking to use your platform in contrast to, say, an individual artist? What strategy would be good for them to use?
I think that the goal can be the same. What record labels usually do is when we talk with them, like some bigger ones, even indie record labels that are a bit bigger, what they're looking at, especially on Groover, are two things. The first one is Spotify playlist curators, because there are not a lot of, because usually they resort, to PR agents or agencies, or they do PR in-house. So like local PR is usually already done or mastered. But like Spotify playlist curators, almost nobody in record labels has a clue about independent playlists, because what they do is they pitch for editorial with distributors, but most of them, they really don't know anything. They know about it, but they don't have an activity of trying to reach out to independent Spotify playlist curators. So they're really interested in Groover for that. And the second thing usually is that since their local PR in-house is managed, when they have an act that they feel they can try to export a bit or get a bit more audience elsewhere, they're really interested in using Groover to try new markets. So when they have, for example, you have a record label in the UK and they want to get in touch with some people in the US, in France, in Germany, in Australia, or in Canada, they can use Groover for that, for a budget that is much lower than if they had, like, from the start to hire a PR agent there, even though they don't know at all if the market is suitable for the artist, So what record labels do a lot is that, like, focus on Spotify playlist curators or YouTube channels, and the other thing is trying some new markets on an international level.
Yeah, gotcha. That's good strategy. And what artist or labels have you or that you currently work with? Can you tell us about that you're most proud of? Yeah.
No, I can give a few names. So let me have a look, because I have this. I don't want to forget some really cool one. So we've done some campaigns for some major record labels. I'm not particularly proud of it, but it's cool because you see that, like, Groover is of interest for them. In the UK, we've done some campaigns with the Ninja Tune. Like, Ninja Tune is using it, like, for.
They're a cool label. They're a very cool label, though.
I think they're cool. I was when I saw that, I was like, I didn't believe it at first, but I was like, no, this is really cool. No, we had some really cool indie record label in the US. I talked about, like, Bada Bing, but also Bright and Tenon Records. We have a record label that's very cool in the UK, in Manchester. Maybe you know about it. It's Craft of the Neck. They have, like, some really cool rock. So they're using Groover for some of their releases to try to get more exposure. We have a lot of big record labels in France, especially some French electronic music and French touch ones, like Rush Music or Kitsune, who's Kitsune. No,
those are their records.
Tudor Cinema Club and, like, a Parcel. So they're using it. There's a French band who's, like, touring a bit worldwide called La Femme, using it. So we were very happy they were using the platform as well. I know that there's maybe you know the record label Dance to the Radio in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using it as well, like, regularly for releases.
Nice.
Yeah. So
what's
just some examples.
And like, could you give a breakdown on what, like, roughly you think across the main genres the curators are, from, like, let's say, like, indie pop, rock, and hip hop, and, say, dance music, across those four? Like, what do you think?
These are definitely the biggest ones. So Groover is super eclectic. So if you're doing, like, some classic piano, if you're doing some jazz, you can find a lot of curators for that. But the biggest ones are the ones you mentioned. I think indie pop is on top. Like, we have a lot of, like, indie pop, indie rock outlets that are really good, and people are getting really good results from the campaigns they're doing on Groover on that. Hip hop has grown a lot, especially French rap, because it's like a huge thing. I don't know if you know about it, but like in France, the top 50 is rap, only rap. It's crazy, and people are like listening to it all day long, and so there's no like. It's sometimes frustrating, but we much less eclectic in terms of like music genres right now, since like 5 years, 4 or 5 years, compared to like the UK or the US when you look at charts. It's crazy. But then we have electronic music, which is big. I would say like indie is probably like 40%. Electronic music would be 20-25. Hip hop rap would be also 20, something like this. And then there's a lot of space for like, I don't know, jazz, world, reggae, stuff like that. And what I include in the hip hop as well would be like soul, R&B, which is really big also on the platform. But what I'm really proud of is that we don't have like a color of a particular genre and group. Like everybody knows that they can go on Groove, they can find really cool creators for their music, expert ones in their music. It's really cool to see like the variety of what we're getting. It's crazy. We're really getting like some classical music and then some super experimental electronic techno, and also some like classic rock and then like a super cool indie rock, unexpected pop, R&B, in French, in Italian. It's crazy.
Oh, that's great. Now, a lot of people will say that they think blogging is dead, and they don't think it's relevant these days. That you should be concentrating on, say, growing your TikTok followers, bringing people into your email list, or Spotify, building on your Spotify playlists. What would you say to artists or labels that are thinking that blogs are dead, and what are the benefits today of being published on blogs and music publications?
I think it has changed a lot. I think one true thing is that they have much less audience than they had before. So in terms of like just reaching audience and visibility, blogs are much less relevant than they were before. But on the other hand, there are still some kind of like stamp of approval, when you're getting on a cool blog, when you're getting on a cool publication, a publication which has like a name or brand that is interesting, that says something. I think you're getting more from communicating about the fact that your music has been reviewed by those media outlets sometimes that you get from getting in a particular playlist. For example, in France, we have a magazine called Les Rock, which is a big one in indie rock, indie pop music. When you get featured on Les Rock, you can get some gigs just because of that, So you're not, and actually probably you're not even gonna see even a small bump of streams because of that. But at the same time, it will act as something that is in the arguments for you to be booked on a gig or featured on a festival. It also goes into the pitches when you pitch to editorial teams at Spotify, for instance, or Deezer. You say, I'm featured in Les Rock, or I'm featured in Pitchfork, or in NME, or like it's an argument saying, okay, you're an act that has been reviewed and has been scouted by these people. It kind of goes with like your legitimacy. So I think like blogs, and in a very similar way, some local radios which don't have like a big audience, but they have like a cachet or something. You can see that it acts as something that brings you more legitimacy. And I think artists that are using Groover, they are looking for two things. They are looking for visibility and audience, but they're also looking for legitimacy. And when you have just a lot of audience and you don't have at all a legitimacy or like approval from curators or experts or music or tastemakers, it's still very complicated to get gigs opportunities, for instance. So you can have like a 200,000 monthly listeners. If you don't have like a single, blog or at least radio, somebody talking about you and saying this is a good act, you're probably going to struggle a lot to even get like a gig to your hometown, like venue.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, to add my point to it, I still think they're very relevant. And like you said, if you've got press pieces in your bio, it's someone else vouching for you. Like you're saying, they're making you more like legitimate
Exactly.
as an artist. And when people are like, what do I write in my press release? Well, or what do I write in my bio? Well, as soon as you've got 3 or 4 press releases, you just have those, and you just be like, described as, a cross between, hip hop and funk and soul by by Enemy magazine, or but the thing is, by any magazine. And I think the other thing it does as well is, creating content for social media is important. But what better piece is when you can upload something to say, hey, I just got reviewed. They just said this about me about my latest single. You can either say that in a TikTok video or put that up as a Facebook reel.
Yeah.
Again, people are like, oh, wow, like, things are kind of happening. And I don't think it obviously if you get an enemy, that's great. But I don't think it has to even be there. It's just some stuff. And I'd say to as an extension on your gigs as well, if you want to get a visa for traveling to the States, you have to prove that you are somebody. And the way they look at it is what press release have you had? And you have to show that you've been reviewed on, I think it's more than 30 different publication outlets. So if you're not there, you're going to struggle to get those, visas as well. So I always like to say what someone else is going to say, but I'm on your side with it as well.
And then it's all about like social proof. It's all about you showing that somebody else that who's listening to a lot of music cares for your music. So it shows something indirectly, and it creates something that makes people want to listen to the music as well. So it's an indirect way to gain some audience. And the other thing I wanted to say, like the example of the visa is amazing. I have like the most perfect example for that. When you're a distributor and you have access to the special Facebook dashboard where you can check the tracks and the rights around the track and everything, you can also request to have your account certified, on Facebook or Instagram. What they require is press articles. They ask only for press articles, blog posts. And I've tried it with some French rappers who had like some really big feature line on Twitter or Instagram, and I never got their account like approved. I did it like just for a psychedelic rock band who got like everything from rock and folk, Rolling Stone and everything. And not a lot of followers, like 2,000 followers. He got approved like instantly.
So there we go. You heard it. Still got to get on those blogs.
If you want to get like the certified check, you need to get some blog posts, and it's totally true, because like sometimes we're frustrated. We have like a super cool act, and it's not like the media favorite, but he or she has a lot of audience, and we can't get them certified. So it shows how like Facebook and Instagram and even this platform value how getting into those articles gives you legitimacy. It gives you legitimacy, actual legitimacy.
Yeah, definitely. So do you find that regular Groover users end up connecting with blogs and publications outside Groover and end up dealing with them directly? Do you encourage this, or is it frowned upon? How do you approach that part?
We don't block this at all. Actually, what we do when someone gets accepted by a blog is we give them access to their email address and suggest them to follow up. And we also do some automated follow-ups. Actually, what happens is that blogs, radios, magazines, they receive so many emails that they will never, even if they love your track, they're not going to review your track if you send it by email the next time, most of the time.
So just like, I've got a system set up, use the system, use Groover. This is what it's there for.
It's exactly that. And we're not encouraging that. We've never sent an email encouraging curators to do that. It's just the way it goes, that it's so much simpler for them that they encourage that. And even not if they want to encourage that, they don't answer the email. So, but you can try. I mean, like if you have a very special relationship you build with a curator, and then they answer your emails or you meet them in real life, it's so cool. We're so happy. Like there's no problem, but we see that there's a lot of retention, and artists get in touch again and again with the same creators with new releases. So we see that there's no problem there. Like we don't have like people leaving the platform after they initiated the contact. It's really cool to see.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm going to dive into a few like very artist specific questions to get your feedback, because I know you're an artist yourself and you work very deeply in the music industry. Like, what do you think is one thing that holds back artists growing their career? The number one thing?
Um, the number one thing is the fact that there's so much music. So everybody needs, I think all the artists need to understand that there are 100,000 new tracks released every day on Spotify. So nobody's waiting for them. Like nobody's is actually waiting to listen to their track. So if they're passive or their music, nothing's gonna happen. People who get discovered and doing nothing and just releasing the music, it doesn't happen. It cannot happen anymore. Like I can't imagine of like one single artist for whom it happened. When you see like an overnight success on TikTok, you're like, oh, they got a viral success on TikTok, but maybe they had been posting on the platform for 2 years, every single day or like 3 times a week, before it happened. And I think it's the biggest thing, I think, preventing artists from going to the next step. It's probably lacking of consistency and resilience. But I don't want to say that it's something that it's their fault, because it's super complicated. Because sometimes you're releasing music, you're producing, you're spending a lot of energy, you're trying everything, and not a lot of things happen. So it's super hard to get to keep the hope and the thing that it's gonna happen. But I think that people who make it are people who are persistent, resilient, and they keep on progressing and advancing. And they also know that nothing is going to end up in their hands if they don't do it by themselves, or if they don't bring the right people around them to help them, which is also super important if they want to grow and everything. You can do it in different ways. You can do everything by yourself. You can get the right people around you. But what artists need to know is I feel what's preventing them from growing is if they feel that they are not like entrepreneurs of their project. Like they need to understand that if they want to make it, their music is gonna be a product that they're gonna try to sell, and it's a very particular product to sell, because you're not going on the market and selling it, and they are not like even CDs or anything. Like you're not selling CDs. Like people are not selling CDs anymore. So you're not selling a product in like a physical way of somebody buying. You're more about how do I reach people to listen to it. So it's not selling, it's more about how do I grow my audience and have more people listen to it, and focusing your attention on that, and knowing that you need to start the fire. You need to start the fire, and you need to keep on entertaining the fire. And not only with your art, but also with your strategy, your ideas. And the last thing I would say is that it can be really thrilling and a game to try to make your music something that is appealing to people on other areas than you show music, like developing a universe, having a message, building some fun content that you feel authentic with around your music. There are so many ways of trying to find your way through that. We have artists who, they do like some tutorials on TikTok about how they build a track, or how to I don't know, like write an indie rock song in like 20 seconds, things like that. Like you can find your way. Like you can find whatever. You can also post. Like you're not forced to post pictures of yourself. You can post like all the things that you're interested in. But try to merge these things that you want to say as an artist, and know that you need to communicate about it, and find your tone of communication to try to be appealing for people, so that people actually want to listen to your music, and break that wall still of first listening. Like how can you make people want to listen to your music?
Because you're right. Because music is interesting as like it's not a product or service per se, where everything else around marketing and promotion is like, what are the benefits of your product or service, right? That's how people sell stuff, right? And, you and I like not selling music. What are the benefits of Groove, right? It's a lot easier to focus on that and then people. Whereas like it's harder to have that benefit with music. Whereas I guess I would say though, it's about connecting with people, like finding a way that your music can connect with people, helping people connect with your music, so they do feel inspired and they feel like they've connected with somebody, which always makes you feel good. We're tribal people at our hearts, And I guess, yeah, that's what you need to do as an artist, or if you're a label.
Connection is key. Connection is super key. And if you want to like meeting new people on the creative side, but also people who can help you develop what you want to say and what you want to do, it's major. It's what's going to make the difference.
Yeah, definitely. And as an extension to that, do you think there's, you know, and maybe in particular to your platform as well, what are some sort of rookie mistakes or common problems you see over and over again with people, you know, early career artists using the platform?
Yeah. So, and also giving some tips at the same time is, for example, one thing is to not get in touch with Spotify playlist curators before your release day. You shouldn't do it because Spotify playlist curators, they need the Spotify link to the track to share it, and they usually do it instantly or very quick. And if you don't have the Spotify link available yet, they're usually gonna disregard the submission, even if they like it. It can happen, at least. I know that it happens sometimes. They just say the Spotify link is not available, I cannot share.
So tip one, start your playlist promotion campaign on release day.
Exactly. Or after. After is still okay. And that's also a rookie mistake just on the platform, is people feeling that everything happens in the first days. It's not true. Like, you can really promote a track for a long time. And actually the first month entirely is super important, but even the months afterwards, you can see peaks and you can grow after that. So it's to think that promotion ends like one day or a few days or even 1 week after the track was released. It's not true. You can get the best things around your release weeks after, or months even after it was released. Another thing I would say is not filling in your profile. So not adding a picture, not adding social media accounts, not adding a bio, because if you contact someone and they like their music, they are going to want to dig into that, to dig into who you are and check your socials. So it's super important to do that. And also another rookie mistake would be, if you get in touch with music industry professionals, like record labels, is not writing a pitch or not explaining why you're getting in touch with them. For instance, if you're sending a track that is finished to a record label, because you want them to listen to your last single, but you also have like 4 or 5 demos ready, write it in your pitch. Like, that's the way to put the label in the right context of saying, okay, this artist has released a track, they have 4 or 5 more tracks, they know what they're going to focus on, and also see if it can be interesting for them. So like, adapt the approach there is super important as well. And also, like, a mistake would be to get in touch with too few curators. If you get in touch with 5 people, you have 1 maybe not answering. After 7 days, you have 2 who will say, oh, this is actually not the kind of music I want to add to my playlist. Okay. You have maybe 1 curator giving you a good piece of feedback, but negative, and 1 accepting. And you're like, I spent 10 euros for 1 thing. And you're like, this is not worth it. And it makes sense. While if you get in touch with like 30 curators and you start getting 27 like pieces of feedback, and also you get credits back to have 3 more. And out of those, you have, I don't know, 5 or 6 features, or even 10 features and reviews, or playlist ads, and the other ones can have some meaningful feedback. Now you see the value of it. And we can see it in all the satisfaction surveys we did, is the more curators you get, artists get in touch with, the more satisfied they are about Groover. It's crazy. Like, people who get in touch with more than 50 curators, we have a 96% satisfaction rate. So people rating 9 or 10 out of 10 of their experience for people getting in touch with more than 50 curators. So people spending more than 100 euros. So you could have the impression it would be different because you're spending more, so you want more, you know, and you would be like more dissatisfied if you don't get something. But it's really key. It's this thing of like, the value of Groover lies in the fact of getting a lot of answers and a lot of possibilities, and opening opportunities and possibilities. So if you're like, I'm just gonna spend like 10 euros to test, I would even say like, don't do it. Like, wait until you're ready to spend, I don't know, like 30, 40 or 50 euros. Yeah, 100 is good, but even like 50 euros, like 20 contacts, 30 contacts can be a good start, because you're actually going to get part of the value. And also it depends on the music genres you're doing. So if you're in a really small niche, usually, like, of course you will have like fewer contacts, you know, to get in touch with than in some other genres. So it really depends. but I would say like 20 is like the bare minimum to hope to get something that makes sense.
Okay, and so I've given some advice. I want you to go onto Groover. I want you to spend €50. Can you as well, like, just what sort of time? How much time would you say for someone that comes on, write their bio, submit everything roughly, so someone can kind of like time budget for this part of like a release campaign?
It depends on your budget, because if you go to Groover and you add your track and then you do you use filters, so we have very detailed filters. So you can select by music genres. You can also select by type of curators, countries, and stuff like that.
Let's say you submit to 30. You're going to go. You've figured out your filter. Okay. You're going to go to 30. What are you looking at?
So either you have filled in your style on your profile, you have a very specific style, and you know that it's into that, and you do the selection. And we usually put some the best recommendations at the top all the time. So if you have filled in your profile with the right genres, and that's one of the big mistakes not to do, is to not put too many genres on your profile. If you put too many, the platform doesn't know what to recommend you. So it's maximum 3. And I would say, like, if you have 1 or 2 is even better. And then in the list, if you do your selection with filters, and then you can kind of try it out with like taking the first 30, like having a quick look. This would be very quick. Like, it can take like a few minutes,
Would you advise that you write an individual message to each one, or should you have like a boilerplate of like, Jim, a little bit about you, and then the first line is curated for them? Like, and does that help with response rates when people are more curating each individual message?
I would say it's important if you're getting in touch with music industry professionals. Like, if you're getting in touch with a record label, or if you're getting with a manager to explain to them why you're contacting them, it's important. For media outlets and Spotify playlist, I must admit that it's not that important. The most important is to have a very clear general pitch for your campaign. Explaining the context of your release, then adapting it to say hello someone, and then exactly the same. It can have some.
This is more of the music, isn't it? They just do they like the music or not? If they like the music, they'll put it in their playlist. If they don't like it, what's the release?
First able to listen to the track. Yeah, but you can do it. And if you have some time, and if you want to maximize your opportunity, and you have time before you do it, for sure, we have the option to do it. And then I would say you can spend much more time on a Groover campaign if you want to have a highly curated selection. Go through all the profiles and see exactly the 30 curators that are for your music. You can really spend an hour on selecting the list. It's what we see sometimes artists do.
And can you favorite your same one? So if you do this if I'm a label, I'm going to do this over and over again. I'm probably going to be reaching, and I do a genre-based label. I'm going to be reaching out to the same places. So can you create like a favorites list in there?
Exactly. So you have like a bookmark on every card, and you can save them into a favorites list, and you can also create like different lists of curators there. So even in your selection, if you don't want to add them this time, but you're like, oh, I want to send it to them when I have a music video, for instance, you can like favorite them and add them in a playlist that you call like music video. I don't know. You can create favorite lists within your campaign.
And we mentioned earlier as well, top tip to not start reaching out to Spotify playlists until after the release date. But what about for getting in some blogs and publications? What time frame would you recommend people should start reaching out?
I would recommend not too much in advance, because what can happen on Groover is that if you contact someone 2 months in advance, you don't know, maybe 2 months later, they won't be active on the platform anymore. They might forget, and might be troubling. So I would say that you can get in touch with blogs 1 or 2 weeks before. I would really advise, if you get in touch with some blogs, to do it if you have a music video or if you have an album supporting it, because usually music blogs, they don't feature just sounds. It depends on the style, on the music side, but in indie music, for instance, it's really more about like most of them, they will need a music video, or they will need like an album supporting the release. If you have that, you can get in touch, and same for radio stations, you can get in touch with them 2 weeks before, 1 week before. But you can also send on release date. To be honest, So we have some artists we support a bit more. Like we built an artist accelerator with some artists that we detected on Groover, and we try to push. We always send the campaigns on release day. So maybe it's like a lack of time. If we had like only one project to defend, maybe we would try to reach out a bit in advance with some of them. But you can also have try to reach out to some media outlets, radio stations by emails before, like traditionally, and using Groover on release day. But you can also do a campaign like 1 or 2 weeks before for media outlets and radios, and then on release day, you get in touch with on the Spotify playlists, for instance.
Interesting.
It can work.
So that sweet spot is a couple of weeks beforehand. That's interesting. I mean, I've always been, for print magazines, at least 6 weeks.
Yeah, but we don't have a lot of print magazines on Groover. That's why I know that for print magazines it's different. And if you're really in the traditional cycle with like a physical album and trying to get into like the physical magazine, it's a totally different thing. But we don't have a lot of those on Groover. So we have some in France, but it's like the reading press. For novelties and discoveries, it just disappeared a lot, unfortunately, and the ones that remain, they are super saturated. They cannot talk about a lot of releases, so it's super difficult to get into them.
Yeah, and just going back to music video, because I think, if you've got a single with a music video, it's something to talk about. Would you say that they're still happy if you have a lyric music video? Just because I know they're a little bit cheaper to produce, and that's still something that people are interested in. Yeah,
it's a good idea. Oh, even a visualizer can be great. I think it's always great to try to have one like a visualizer or lyrics video because it's a bit more engaging. It can also help you do like a Spotify Canva, for Spotify. I like if you have one, like try them out. And also on the profiles, you can see the ones who really want a music video, a clip. They say it on the profile. So you can also, if you're really into the details, you can really select like this. I don't want to be dogmatic because like I know that some media outlets, they also cover, like if you send a SoundCloud link and they will like it, they will write an article. But I know that a lot of them, they are more into like, I need a bit more information. I need a bit more substance. Like, I need around the project.
No, that's good to know. I mean, we always encourage people we encourage people to use Rota. That's quite a good one for doing videos. And if you've got lyrics, spend some time doing a lyric video. I think it goes a lot further. So what are we? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly wrap it up with a couple of things. You've recently done a deal with CD Baby. What does that mean for Groover users?
So Groover users, they get 2 free submissions, releases on CD Baby, 1 standard and 1 pro, which is cool because with CD Baby, as you probably know, you pay only once. Like you don't pay a subscription. So you can release like a new track or new release for free with one of those codes. So it's a good way to try CD Baby. And you also have another code that you can use as many times as you want for 40% discount on all subsequent releases. So it's really like a cool offer for artists who are using Groover and want to find like a new aggregator or they want to try a new one. And on the other end, people who use CD Baby, they get a cool discount for Groover, 15% discount code, which is cool. And we're talking a lot with them about finding some other integrations. We're also trying to, we also build a playlist that we're trying to root for a bit with some artists who have used both platforms. So we see how it goes, but we really have share a very common DNA with CD Baby. And it's super cool to work with them, and we keep on exploring how we can integrate a bit more the platforms, which could be great for people on CD Baby when they release to like launch a Groover campaign from scratch. It could be the dream. And at the same time, we're not exclusive with CD Baby at all. Like we work with TuneCore as well. Super great team and super product, and the new offers are amazing. The subscription offers. So we have partnerships with a lot of the distributors and aggregators, also some local ones. And no, it makes a lot of sense because it's like you distribute your track, the next thing you're thinking about is promoting it. So it's like partnering up with some distributors makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that. That's
Thank you. It helped us grow a lot in the US, which is super cool.
What was it? Sorry?
It helped us grow a lot in the US and in the UK as well, because the CD Baby is quite like a lot of people are using it in the UK as well. So
yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we're coming to the end. Thanks for your time. Can you let us know where to personally follow you online and where to follow Groover online? What are your handles?
Of course, on Instagram, it's groover.en. If you want to follow the English account, when we post a lot of like interesting content and advice for musicians. My own Instagram account, and I want some new followers to come. No, I'm kidding. I'm not like a big Instagram user on a personal point of view, but still, it's growing, and people are asking me questions. I always answer. So you can follow me. It's Dorian Flagrant. It's not my last name. It was my previous handle for like an integration. I kept it like it's Dorian Flagrant, Flagrant. So you can find me on Instagram and follow me and like me if you want to. And you can also, Instagram is great if you want to get in touch. You can also go to the Groover blog, where we give a lot of advice on a lot of different things. It's a great place to go if you're looking for concrete advice on how to develop your projects and boost your career. Yeah, I guess that's it. And then groover.co, of course, and you can sign up. And we have a chat on the website if you have any issues, and we're super reactive on it. Artists tell us that they love our support, our team, because the people who are doing it are really cool. I'm still doing it on the weekend. So if you want an answer from me, you can write to me on the weekend on Groover.
I think that's how we met. I think I sent a message on the weekend and you responded.
Probably, yes. But then the rest of the week, it's Emma and William. William is in New York City and Emma in Paris, and they're so good at it and super willing to help artists all the time. So sometimes we even answer to random questions we have, which has nothing to do with Groover. But when we have the answer, we always answer. Like we try. We really here to help artists. It's our goal, like number one.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. And yeah, we'll be shouting about Groover over at the Label Machine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick. It was a pleasure.